The loud slam of a shopping basket echoed through the store. A well-dressed man in a designer suit shoved his items onto the checkout counter, his face twisted with impatience. His expensive watch gleamed under the bright store lights as he tapped his fingers against the counter, waiting. The cashier, a young man in his early 20s, quickly scanned the items, his hands slightly trembling. He had only been working here for a few days, and handling VIP customers always made him nervous. Beep! The register froze. The VIP customer sighed dramatically, rolling his eyes. "Are you serious? I don't have time for this." The cashier's fingers fumbled across the screen. Sorry, sir. Just one moment." But the man wasn't interested in patience. He leaned forward, his voice dripping with arrogance. "People like you will never make it anywhere. No work ethic, no intelligence. It's pathetic." His words hung in the air. Nearby customers glanced over, some shifting uncomfortably, but no one said a word. No one, except the man standing just a few feet away, watching. A man the VIP had just unknowingly insulted. A man who was about to teach him a lesson he would never forget. Have you ever seen someone mistreat a worker only for karma to strike back? Share your story in the comments. Stay with me, because this story is about to take an unforgettable turn. The checkout line grew tense. The young cashier kept his head down, frantically trying to fix the register glitch. His hands trembled slightly, a mixture of panic and frustration building in his chest. He had been on the job for less than a week, and the last thing he wanted was to mess up in front of a VIP customer. But the man across from him? He had no patience. The VIP checked his expensive watch, sighing loudly so everyone could hear. His neatly styled hair and expensive cologne matched his expensive attitude. "This is ridiculous," he muttered, his voice laced with irritation. He drummed his fingers on the counter, eyes darting around the store, as if expecting someone, anyone, to step in and fix the situation. A few feet away, customers shifted uncomfortably. Some watched in silence. Others looked away, pretending not to notice. But the cashier could feel every pair of eyes on him. He tapped the screen again, trying to override the error. Nothing. He swallowed hard, forcing himself to speak. "I'm really sorry, sir. The system just needs a second." But the VIP wasn't interested in explanations. He let out a harsh laugh. "Wow, you can't even do something this simple? This is why people like you never succeed." The words hit like a slap. The cashier froze. He could feel heat creeping up his neck, embarrassment settling deep in his stomach. The store was filled with people, yet he had never felt more alone. The VIP customer leaned in slightly, smirking. "I bet you're barely making minimum wage, huh?" His voice was low, condescending. "Meanwhile, I could buy this entire store without thinking twice." A few quiet gasps rippled through the checkout area. Some of the customers looked at each other, whispering. Others turned their backs, unwilling to get involved. The cashier's throat tightened. He wanted to say something, anything, but his voice wouldn't come out. Then a new voice broke the silence. "Is there a problem here?" It was calm, deep, authoritative. The VIP turned, ready to snap at whoever had interrupted him. But the moment his eyes landed on the man standing behind him, his smirk vanished. Because this wasn't just any customer. It was the owner of the store. And he had heard everything. The store owner stood tall, his arms crossed as he observed the scene before him. His expression was unreadable, but there was a quiet intensity in his eyes. The VIP straightened his suit jacket, trying to regain his composure. He had been so focused on humiliating the cashier that he hadn't noticed the man watching from a few feet away. Now, With the store owner's presence, the balance of power shifted. For the first time, the VIP hesitated. The cashier finally exhaled, his shoulders slumping in relief. He had no idea who the owner was at first, but when he saw the way the other employees suddenly stiffened, he realized this was the man in charge. A few customers inched closer, sensing the tension. The quiet whispers turned into curious murmurs. Everyone was waiting to see what would happen next. The VIP forced a small chuckle, adjusting his expensive cufflinks. "There's no problem here," he said smoothly. "Just a misunderstanding. Your cashier was struggling with my order, and I was simply trying to get things moving. After all, good service should be a priority in a place like this, shouldn't it?" His tone had shifted. It was no longer the arrogant mockery from before. Now it was forced, controlled, calculated. But the store owner wasn't fooled. He tilted his head slightly, his gaze locking onto the VIPs. "Good service," the owner repeated, his voice calm but firm. "Yes, that is important. But so is respect." The VIP's smirk twitched. He opened his mouth, ready to argue, but the store owner raised a hand, stopping him. "Let me ask you something," the owner continued, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "Do you always treat workers like this? Or just the ones you think you're better than?" A ripple of shock spread through the crowd. Customers and employees alike stared, waiting for the VIP's response. The VIP's confidence wavered. He wasn't used to being questioned, especially not in public. I wasn't trying to be rude," he stammered. "It's just, I expect professionalism, that's all." The store owner nodded slowly. "Professionalism," he repeated. "Like the kind where you insult a hard-working employee in front of a room full of people?" The VIP swallowed hard. The energy in the store had completely shifted. Just moments ago, he had been the one in control, mocking the cashier with an audience. Now, the entire store was against him. The store owner turned toward the cashier, offering a small nod. "Are you okay?" The young man hesitated, then nodded quickly. "Yes, sir." The owner smiled reassuringly. "You handled that well. Don't let people like him shake your confidence." The VIP felt a rush of embarrassment crawl up his spine. People like him. It was the first time in his life someone had spoken to him like that. A few customers whispered among themselves. One elderly man shook his head. About time someone put people like that in their place. A mother with her child muttered, "I wouldn't want my son growing up to act like that man." And the worst part, the VIP heard every single word. He clenched his fists, forcing a tight smile. "Look, I don't want any trouble," he said, his voice quieter now. "Let's just finish the transaction, and I'll be on my way." But the store owner wasn't finished. He stepped forward, his voice unwavering. "Actually, you won't." The VIP blinked. "Excuse me?" The store owner didn't hesitate. "I don't want your business. Take your things and leave. You're no longer welcome here." A collective gasp swept through the store. A cashier being yelled at? That was common. But a store owner kicking out a VIP customer? That was unheard of. The VIP's face turned red. "You can't be serious." The store owner's expression didn't change. "I am. My store is built on respect. You don't have any, so take your money elsewhere." The VIP glanced around the room, realizing no one was on his side. For the first time in his life, his money didn't matter. And that terrified him. The VIP's jaw tightened. His confidence, once overflowing, had now shattered. He glanced around, hoping someone, anyone, would come to his defense. But there was only silence. The customers who had once admired his wealth now looked at him with quiet disapproval. The employees, who had once treated him with forced politeness, now stood with their shoulders squared, their respect shifted toward their boss. The VIP wasn't in control anymore. For the first time in his life, his money meant nothing. He let out a forced laugh, trying to mask his frustration. "You're making a mistake," he said, his voice dripping with disbelief. "Do you have any idea how much I spend here? How much I've contributed to your business?" The store owner tilted his head slightly. "I do." Then his voice hardened. "And I don't care." A few quiet gasps rippled through the store. No one had ever spoken to the VIP like that before. The man's face turned red. His composure cracked. "You'd really throw away a customer like me?" he demanded, his voice rising slightly. The store owner remained calm. "Yes." Then he crossed his arms. "Because a business built on respect doesn't need customers who don't have any." The words hit harder than expected. The VIP felt something strange, something unfamiliar. Shame. For the first time in his life, he wasn't the most important person in the room. He wasn't admired. He wasn't respected. Instead, he was just a man who had made a fool of himself, and everyone had watched it happen. He exhaled sharply, grabbing his wallet and snatching his credit card from the counter. "Fine." His voice was clipped, his movements stiff. "I'll take my business elsewhere." He turned, his expensive shoes clicking against the polished floor. Customers stepped aside, giving him space, not out of deference, but because no one wanted to be associated with him. And as he stormed toward the exit, the store owner called out one last time. "Next time you walk into a store, remember, money doesn't make you important. How you treat people does." The VIP froze for half a second. Then, without another word, he walked out. And the doors closed behind him. The tension broke. A slow ripple of applause spread through the store. A few customers nodded in approval, while others exchanged murmurs of agreement. One elderly man chuckled. "About time someone put people like that in their place." A young mother leaned down to her son. "This is why we always treat workers with kindness, sweetheart." The store owner exhaled, his shoulders relaxing. Then he turned back to the cashier. The young man stood frozen, his face still slightly pale. He had expected the worst, maybe even to get in trouble for delaying the checkout. Instead, his boss had stood up for him. The owner gave a small nod. "You okay?" The cashier swallowed, then nodded quickly. Yeah, I just wasn't expecting that." The owner smiled. "Well, expect it from now on. No one disrespects my employees, not here." For the first time since starting the job, the cashier felt something new. Confidence. The store owner turned to the rest of the staff, speaking loud enough for everyone to hear. "Listen up. From today forward, I don't care how rich or important a customer thinks they are. No one is allowed to mistreat my employees. If someone can't treat you with basic respect, they're not welcome here. Understood?" The employees nodded in unison. And just like that, the store wasn't just a business anymore. It was a place where respect mattered. And that made all the difference. The VIP stormed out of the store, but as soon as the cool air hit his face, his confidence cracked. His entire life, money had been his power. Money got him VIP treatment. Money made people look the other way when he was rude. Money gave him control. But today, money had meant nothing. He walked toward his luxury car, gripping his keys tightly. For the first time in years, he felt something unfamiliar. Not anger, not entitlement, but shame. He had never been kicked out of a store before. He had never been put in his place. And worst of all, he had deserved it. As he sat in the driver's seat, he replayed the moment over and over. The cashier's nervous hands, the store owner's unwavering stance, the way the customers had looked at him, like he was the problem. Because he was. For years, he had walked into places expecting people to treat him like he was above them. But today, someone had called him out. And deep down, he knew he needed to change. Back inside the store, the energy had completely shifted. Customers continued shopping, but something felt different. There was a quiet sense of pride among the staff. The employees who once feared VIP customers now knew one thing for certain. Their boss would always have their back. And that changed everything. News of the incident spread quickly. The next day, a regular customer walked up to the owner at checkout and smiled. "I heard what happened yesterday. It's about time someone stood up for workers." The owner simply nodded. "It's how things should be." But the customer shook their head. Most businesses wouldn't risk losing a high-paying customer. But you did the right thing. And that's why people are going to keep coming back here. And they were right. Over the next few weeks, the store gained more loyal customers. Not because of sales, not because of fancy marketing, but because people knew this store wasn't just about money. It was about respect. The young cashier felt it too. Before, this was just a job, a paycheck. But now, it was more than that. For the first time, he stood a little taller behind the counter. He no longer feared making mistakes, because he knew, no matter what happened, he mattered. And in the end, that was worth more than any paycheck. Days passed, but the lesson lingered. The VIP couldn't shake the humiliation. Not because he had been embarrassed, but because for the first time in his life he had been forced to see himself for who he really was. He had always thought money gave him power. That money meant he deserved to be treated better than others. But that day in the store, money had failed him. And respect, that was something he had never truly earned. One evening, he sat in his office, staring at his reflection in the window. All his life, he had been surrounded by people who tolerated his arrogance. Employees, assistants, business partners. But not one of them had ever challenged him. And that's when he realized. The store owner hadn't been rude to him. He had simply told him the truth. And the truth stung. Meanwhile, the store continued to thrive. Customers noticed the difference. Employees felt empowered. The owner's decision to value dignity over dollars had set a new standard. And because of that, loyalty to the business grew stronger than ever. People wanted to shop where respect wasn't just a word, it was a practice. One afternoon, the store doors opened again. This time, the VIP walked in quietly. No arrogance, no smugness. He looked around, spotting the store owner near the back. With a deep breath, he approached. But this time, the VIP wasn't there to demand service. He was there to make things right. He stopped in front of the store owner and spoke, his voice lower, calmer. "I just wanted to say, I was wrong." The owner raised an eyebrow, waiting. The VIP cleared his throat. "I was raised to believe that money is everything, that people would always respect you if you had enough of it. But that day, I learned respect isn't something you buy. It's something you earn." The store owner nodded slowly, saying nothing. The VIP hesitated, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. "I run a company," he said. "And the truth is, I've never cared much about how my employees feel, but I want to change that. I want to do better. And I figured you'd be the best person to teach me how." For a long moment, the store owner studied him. Then, to the VIP's surprise, he smiled. "If you're willing to learn, I'm willing to help." The VIP let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding, because for the first time in his life, Someone wasn't afraid to hold him accountable, and instead of feeling insulted, he felt grateful. At the end of the day, the lesson was clear. Money could buy things. It could buy status, luxury, even power. But the one thing it could never buy: character. And in the end, that was what mattered most. At the end of the day, respect isn't about wealth. It isn't about status. It's about how you treat people, especially those who can't do anything for you. The VIP thought money made him important, but when faced with someone who valued character over cash, he realized the truth. Real power comes from humility, from kindness, from respect. And the best part? It doesn't cost a thing. What do you think? Have you ever seen someone learn a hard lesson about respect? Tell us in the comments. If you believe kindness matters, hit that like button and share this video. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories, because sometimes one decision changes everything. See you in the next video.